This episode is part 2 of an interview I did with best-selling author and top marketing blogger Mark Schae. In the previous episode, we discussed Mark's new book, Cumulative Advantage. You might want to check that one out, as well as this one if you haven't already done so. Now we change gears a little bit. We take it on a path of reinvention, we dissect thought leadership, and we go in a little bit deeper on how Mark has managed to continue to evolve as an author, as a speaker, as a blogger, as a personal brand. It's something that a lot of people, a lot of professionals really get in a bind about in terms of should they be doing the one thing all the time. And I think we live in this society where everything is niche, 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 niche. So if you're of the opinion that, hey, I'm a professional, I'm a curious person, I am evolving in many different ways, I think you'll enjoy part 2 of this interview with Mark Schae.
Welcome to Reputation Revolution. This is the podcast where we help individuals like you to establish your voice in the marketplace, enhance the credibility of that voice, extend the reach of your story and your message, and finally, extract value from your efforts in building a meaningful personal brand that's both recognized and respected. Now, on with the show.
I want to shift gears, going back to where you've just mentioned how you have, you've tackled different content, and I want to read something from your book here. You said, "My drive and personal energy comes from trying new things. I have a history of reinventing myself about every 3 to 4 years." And I'd love to talk a little bit about reinvention, because we live in a world, and in marketing and particularly personal branding, where it's all about the niche and niche down. And you know, a lot of this does make sense and everything, but it freaks a lot of people out, because when a lot of people are multi-dimensional and beings, you know, and if they're professional, they've been around for 20 or 30 years, they've got lots of different ideas and knowledge and expertise, and they've got the scars on the knuckles to prove it. They've been in the trenches. And it's very hard to zoom in on one thing, but you've shown that, you know, you started with social media, started with Twitter, influencer marketing, and have moved through broader marketing. One of your micro books, I suppose, mini books, was called Lessons about chaos, and now you're talking about momentum. Just give us a riff on all of that, and what's your thinking behind it, because I know a lot of people that get freaked out by, I have to box myself in, and we know about, you know, focus and having a market and a positioning. How do you approach that? How do you approach your positioning? There's about 3,000 questions in one there, sorry.
Well, I've had the same 3 words at the top of my website for at least 10 years. It says marketing, strategy, humanity. And that's where I live. I love the intersection of those things: marketing, strategy, humanity. So the first point is that I have riverbanks. Those are the riverbanks that I stay in, because I do think consistency is important. If you build an audience and put time into it, if I started writing about Russian history, I would lose my whole audience. However, I have many interests. I love sports. I love art. I love history. I love traveling. I love food. I spend lots of time in nature, gardening and hiking. So I have all these interests, and I can bring those interests into my content. So I've written articles about something I've learned from art or history or my travels or visiting an art museum that provide some lesson about marketing, something I learned, something that I observed that I never thought of before. There was one blog post, I was watching this basketball game. I mentor these children. I went to their basketball game, and my kids' team was just slamming the other team. I think it was like 50-0. Finally, one kid from the other team stole the ball, dribbled down the court, threw the ball up, and made a perfect basket into the wrong hoop. He actually scored a basket for the other team. And the lesson was that it doesn't matter how hard you work and how well you execute if the strategy is wrong in the first place. So I was able to see something like that and bring it into a teachable moment, staying within those riverbanks. Now, that's on a micro level. On a macro level, I have evolved as a person. I rarely write about social media anymore, even though that's what kind of got me into it. I think a lot of people still think of me as a social media person because that's where I started. But I kind of became bored with the daily tips and tactics of social media, and I evolved into more strategic thinking about influence, about content, about strategy, about personal branding. And I think when I wrote the book Known, it was really a risk because Known was about personal branding, and it tied up all these things about marketing and technology and humanity, but it was sort of taking a step almost toward being a self-help book instead of a marketing strategy book. But the book was huge because I didn't confuse my audience. So I was evolving as a person. I was growing. I was covering new topics that interested me. But because I could still stay within those riverbanks, I never lost my audience, and my audience is still growing. So I think it is possible to bring in lots of interest, to continue to evolve as a person. The way I think, the things I write about are going to be different 6 months from now than they are right now. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm still learning and I'm evolving, and I can't help but reflect that in my content and my brand.
And we look at the concept of thought leadership, and we both work in worlds where most words have been rendered absolutely meaningless: authentic, thought leadership, personal branding. But in terms of, I guess, with the types of content and everything, I mean, you get the inbound marketing crowd, and that not what they're doing is wrong, but you've got to answer your customers' their challenges, address their challenges, their fears. What are the questions they're asking? And that's utility content and really great. And you can't go wrong being useful and helpful, right? But it's just one way. But when you look at thought leadership type content, you're actually poking people in the metaphorical eye. Like you're prodding them. Every time you read a Seth Godin post, it's like a slap in the face sometimes. Because people don't really know what they don't know. And we want to be challenged and inspired with ideas. You had a great post the other day. A guy, Keith Reynolds, wrote it. And he wrote about being and it was just an eye-opener, being the expert, the guide, and the agent. And, you can't be all things to all people anymore. How do you approach personal branding from your perspective? Because you've been building your brand, you're clearly a thought leader. You challenge people with your ideas. Your story, the content shock, was a real shock for a lot of people in the industry. Do you sort of plot and plan a lot, or is it going to be always ideas driven, and then your expertise and packaging your expertise comes off the back of that? So, your consulting and your coaching and everything else you do.
Well, I think it's an important idea and important strategy today, because the utility content is really aimed at SEO. I happen to believe that the heyday of SEO is over. I think that there's so much competition today. We know that Google keeps 51% of their search inquiries themselves. We don't even have an opportunity for it, right? They're keeping it for their own properties or their sponsors, their advertisers. So now you have to think, okay, how am I going to win the search results? Well, I'm in digital marketing. I'm never going to win the search results for digital marketing, because you need to win the top 2 or 3 search results for me against 100,000 people who are in digital marketing. And the two people at the top are going to be the mean junkyard dogs with the big budgets and the meanest SEO, professionals, and they're going to be going at it forever to win those two results. I'm not a junkyard dog. I'm never going to be. So I have to earn attention in a different way. I have to create thought leadership content that will earn attention based on my authority, by the quality of what I do. And I think the way I differentiate myself, I'm not known as the Facebook ads person. I'm not the Snapchat person. Really, I'm interested in a lot of different things. And I think what I'm known for is assessing the situation and telling the truth. And I have a pretty good track record of predicting what's going to be next, to say, look, I see this happening. This is what I think could happen next. This is a big trend. I don't see it working in the long term. And so people just sort of believe in that over time. And I'm fortunate that a lot of people have chosen to follow me and pay attention to me.
And in terms of the business model behind it, I mean, you've written an article at one point about how you get, there's 20 sources of revenue, and we won't go through all of them. But do you, how much do you sort of say this is the path I'm going to take from a business model perspective, and how much is opportunities come up because of your profile and the authority you've built and the reputation? And, that sounds like a good idea. We could do that, and you can, make some income that way.
A lot of it really is, all of it really is sort of circumstantial. And I'll give you an example. I got a note on LinkedIn a few weeks ago from the CMO of a large pharmaceutical company, one of the biggest companies in the world. And she said, I read your Marketing Rebellion book, and we need this book. We need your help. Can you help us think this through and apply this to our marketing? We have a lot of changes going on, and we need to respond in this way. We need to be the most human pharmaceutical company, and we need your help. I didn't plan that. It just came out of the blue. And furthermore, that wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. I mean, that is a case study in consistency, where over time, when you're just starting out, you'll get a little attention. After year 2, you'll earn more attention. And I've been doing this for 12 or 13 years now. And so my reputation has grown to the point where I can get the attention of a CMO from major companies, because I've been honest, I've been working hard, I've been generous, I've been transparent, I've been very, very helpful. And so it's paid off over time. And I haven't filled out an RFQ in probably 10 years. My reputation just builds and builds. And so people know, they trust me. They know how I think. I've given them glimpses into what I stand for and how I live my life. And they trust me. And when the opportunities come about, I'm the person that they call.
How important is that? And I know the answer, but a lot of people who are professionals who have been out there for a long time, and they're the ones who have got the information to share and the knowledge, are often the most reluctant to go out and share it. But you do share the behind the scenes, and probably more today than you probably did years ago. Share that behind the scenes of Mark Schaefer Inc. And the person. How did you was that a gradual thing over a period of time to just, I think Jay Bear once said it was opening a kimono, to let people into your life? Was it a conscious decision? Had it just evolved? Was it hard for you?
It was a little bit of both. When I entered the social media world, I was coming from a very buttoned down, Fortune 100 corporate environment. And so I had this image that, Now I had this marketing advice, which I would create for my ideal personas and on and on and on. And two things happened early in this immersion in social media. The first thing is that nothing happened. And the second thing is I got bored. I was writing made up content for made up personas. And so I just started to relax and add my personality. And if I felt upset about something, I said, I'm upset. If I felt funny that day, I might write something funny. And it was not natural at all, really, for me to share myself and what was going on in my life. And then there was a pivotal moment. There's a professional who I know you know, Ginny Dietrich. And Ginny is someone who I admire. And then on the American holiday of Thanksgiving, she posted this little video many years ago of her family at Thanksgiving. And everybody was saying hello. And I just thought, this is so simple. And she's like opening up her home and opening up her life and saying, this is where I am today. Why can't I do that? And so in that moment, I challenged myself to try to do that more. And every time I did, I was rewarded. People would say, oh, when you talked about this thing that happened to you, how did you know? I'm going through the same thing. How did you know? We were just talking about that at work. I thought, interesting. When I talk about things that are on my mind, things that are on my heart, then people respond because we're sort of we're creating this communion in this way, this emotional communion. And so I'm still not perfect. It's still something I have to work at all the time. Many times I'll create some content and then I'll go back and figure out how I can make it a little more personal because it doesn't come natural to me. And then I think in this new book, Cumulative Advantage, certainly this is the most autobiographical book I've ever written. And I was very self-conscious about that, thinking, why would anybody care about me and what I went through? But people, once again, they've responded saying, I love this. I love these stories. This taught me a lot. So once again, it worked.
Isn't that the ultimate personal branding too? We see some great marketers or people who are great at marketing, and they craft beautiful websites and they've got their messaging down pat and everything's crafted on Instagram and everything. And it just doesn't feel right. Yet they look the same as everyone else. And yet you put that personality in, and that's your advantage. That's your differentiation. The mote of differentiation around your brand is actually you and what you're interested in 100%. And what you're doing. Mark, been terrific to chat. As I say, I recommend people read your blog. You have two articles come out a week, and very much on the dot, and very well worth reading. The Marketing Companion podcast. The new book's called Cumulative Advantage. But also, if you're interested in personal branding, and you probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast if not, Known is the book for you. And the content code, if you're all about content marketing and want to crack through, and at a bigger level, more holistic marketing level, Marketing Rebellion. So lots of books to get into, lots of content to dig into, and then follow Mark on all the socials. What's the website, Mark? The best website?
Businessesgrow.com. You can find all those
Excellent.
Resources are in one place at businessesgrow.com.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mark. Been a pleasure.
The reputation economy is here. The world today needs more genuine, credible experts and leaders to stand up and share their experience, their wisdom, their stories and ideas. Are you in?